My life with Sarah was once a tapestry woven with shared laughter and unspoken understanding. We built a home filled with warmth and quiet dreams. Our anniversary photo sat on the mantel, a testament to what we believed was an unbreakable bond. I remember the day we met a coffee shop hummed with mundane chatter. But for us, time seemed to slow down. Her smile was a beacon, a promise of a future I eagerly embraced. We planned everything, our careers, our holidays, our children. Yet somewhere along the way, a subtle chill began to creep into the edges of our shared world. It was not a sudden storm, but a slow erosion, like waves against a familiar shore. We still held hands, sometimes across the dinner table. But the spark that once ignited our touch felt like a distant ember, a memory more than a present reality. The conversations grew shorter, the silences longer, the easy flow of words replaced by polite inquiries about our day, each a reminder of the growing chasm between us. I told myself it was normal, phase every long-term relationship endured. But deep down, a tremor of doubt began to vibrate through my core, a feeling I tried desperately to ignore. Then came Lena. She was a whirlwind of vibrant energy, a stark contrast to the muted tones our life had become. We met at a work conference, an unexpected encounter in a crowded hotel lobby. Her eyes held a mischievous glint, and her laughter was like music, a sound that resonated with a forgotten part of me. We talked for hours over lukewarm coffee, discussing everything from obscure indie films to the meaning of life. There was an effortless connection, a shared intellectual curiosity that felt exhilarating. I found myself anticipating her emails, her texts, her quick, witty remarks. I started staying late at the office, finding excuses to prolong my workday, hoping for another casual hallway chat, another shared smile with Lena. She brought a lightness to my days, a renewed sense of purpose, a spark that I had not realized was so profoundly missing from my existence with Sarah. The guilt was a faint whisper, at first easily drowned out by the thrill of something new, something exciting, something forbidden. The whispers grew louder as my interactions with Lena became more frequent, more intimate. What began as professional camaraderie slowly blurred into something else, something dangerous, something irresistible. We started having lunch together, then after work drinks, then secret dinners in dimly lit corners of the city. I told Sarah I was working late, that I had a new project, a big deadline. The lies felt clumsy at first, but with each utterance they became smoother, more convincing. A fabric woven of deceit around my true intentions. My phone became an extension of myself, always guarded, always face down, always within reach. Lena understood me in a way I felt Sarah no longer did. She saw the ambitious man, the dreamer, the adventurer, a version of myself I felt had been buried under the weight of routine and responsibility. With Sarah, I felt safe, predictable with Lena. I felt alive, unpredictable, on the edge of something momentous. The line between right and wrong blurred into an indistinct haze, a fog of desire and selfish longing that consumed my thoughts, my days, my nights. The first kiss was an accident or so, I told myself, a moment of weakness, after a particularly intense discussion over too many glasses of wine. Her lips were soft and warm, a shocking contrast to the cold dread that simultaneously gripped my stomach. It was a point of no return, a dive into an abyss I knew I should avoid, but could not resist. The subsequent encounters were less accidental, more deliberate, each a step further down a path paved with stolen moments and whispered promises. I would return home to Sarah, her innocent questions about my day, her loving embrace, a dagger in my heart. The hypocrisy was suffocating. I felt like two different people living two separate lives, the devoted partner and the clandestine lover, each persona, a carefully constructed facade. The guilt was a constant companion, a heavy cloak I wore beneath my everyday clothes. But the thrill, the intoxicating rush of newness, the feeling of being truly seen, truly desired, was a powerful antidote to the shame, and it kept me going, kept me seeking out those forbidden moments, kept me spiraling deeper into the secret life I'd created for myself, a life that was exhilarating and terrifying. In equal measure, I tried to rationalize my actions. I told myself Sarah and I were drifting apart, that this was an inevitable consequence of a fading love. I convinced myself that Lena was not a replacement, but an escape, a temporary reprieve from a growing emptiness. I argued with my conscience in the dead of night, justifying my betrayal with a litany of perceived slights and unmet needs from Sarah. I focused on her flaws, her occasional complaints, her predictable routines, anything to lessen the burden of my own responsibility. The truth was, I was selfish. I wanted both the comfort and stability of my life. With Sarah and the excitement and passion that Lena offered, I was a coward, unwilling to face the painful reality of a relationship that was perhaps slowly dying, a slow, painful death. I chose the path of least resistance, the path of deception, a path that offered immediate gratification but promised eventual ruin. I knew it. I felt it deep in my bones, but I pushed the feeling away, burying it under layers of denial and manufactured happiness. Each day was a performance, each smile a lie, each tender word to Sarah a fresh wound on my soul. The duplicity was eating away at me from the inside out, a corrosive acid slowly dissolving. The man I once thought I was. Sarah began to notice subtle changes in me, my absent-mindedness, my sudden guardedness with my phone, my evasiveness. When asked about my evenings, she never confronted me directly. But her eyes held a new sadness, a questioning gaze that pierced through my flimsy defenses. She started to suggest we spend more time together. Take a weekend trip, reconnect as she called it. Each suggestion filled me with a fresh wave of panic and dread. How could I face her? How could I pretend when my heart was so divided, my thoughts so consumed by another? I tried to be more present, more affectionate, but my efforts felt hollow. Forced a performance for an audience of one who deserved so much more than my half-hearted attention. I saw the hurt in her eyes, the silent disappointment, the gradual withdrawal of her own affection. A mirror image of my own growing distance. I was breaking her slowly, piece by piece, and I was too weak, too entangled in my own web of deceit to stop myself. The thought of losing Lena was unbearable, but the thought of truly losing Sarah to my own actions was a terrifying abyss I refused to look into. I clung to the illusion that I could maintain both worlds indefinitely. The inevitable finally arrived. Not with a bang, but with a quiet shudder, a forgotten text message, a casual comment from a colleague, a lipstick stain on my shirt that Sarah could not ignore. I do not remember the exact moment of discovery, only the crushing weight of realization. The air left the room a vacuum of truth that pulled everything apart. Her face. I will never forget her face. It was a mask of disbelief and pain, a shattered mirror reflecting all my ugliest secrets. There were no screams, no theatrics, just a quiet, broken question that hung in the air like a death knell. How could you? My name spoken with such raw agony, stripped of all the love and tenderness it once held. I tried to deny. At first tried to spin another web of lies, but the words died in my throat, choked by the magnitude of my betrayal. There was no escape, no explanation that could soften the blow, no apology that could mend the gaping wound I had inflicted. I stood before her exposed, vulnerable, utterly despicable, the man who had promised her forever was a stranger, a deceiver, a villain in her eyes. The confession spilled out a torrent of half-truths and desperate apologies. I saw her visibly flinch with each word, each detail, a fresh stab to her heart. The subsequent days were a blur of hushed conversations, heavy silences, and the unbearable weight of her grief. She packed a small bag, saying she needed space-time to think, time to breathe away from the suffocating presence of my lies. I tried to reach out to Lena to explain, to justify, but her response was cold, distant. She felt used. She set a pawn in my marital drama. Her image of me shattered into a million pieces. I had destroyed not one relationship, but two, leaving a trail of wreckage in my wake. I was alone, then truly alone, surrounded by the echoes of my own deceit. The house felt vast and empty, devoid of Sarah's comforting presence, Lena's vibrant energy replaced by a bitter silence. I walked through the rooms that once held our shared laughter and found only ghosts of what we were, what we could have been. Each object a painful reminder of the life I had so carelessly dismantled. The weeks that followed were a torment of regret and self-loathing. I lost my appetite, my sleep, my ability to find joy in anything. The silence was deafening, a constant reminder of what I had forfeited. I realized then with a brutal clarity that Lena had been an escape, a fantasy, a fleeting illusion of happiness that masked a deeper unhappiness within myself. It was not about her. It was about me, my insecurities, my fear of commitment, my inability to communicate my true feelings to Sarah. Instead of facing the discomfort of a waning passion, I had sought solace in a destructive distraction. I had been a coward, a fool, a selfish human being who prioritized temporary pleasure over enduring love. The loss of Sarah was not just the loss of a partner, but the loss of my best friend, my confidant, my anchor, the person who knew me better than anyone else in the world and still chose to love me. Until I broke that trust. Irreparably, I looked at myself in the mirror and saw a stranger, a man I barely recognized, stained by his own actions, his own choices. There is no easy path to redemption, no magic spell to undo the damage I caused. Sarah deserves more than my apologies. She deserves to heal, to find happiness far away from the wreckage of our past. I sent her messages, sometimes not begging for forgiveness, but expressing my deep sorrow, my understanding of the pain I inflicted. I hope one day she can find peace. I'm learning to live with the consequences of my choices, to face the mirror honestly, to understand the flaws within myself that led me down that treacherous path. It is a long and arduous journey, one of self-discovery and profound introspection. I know now that true intimacy lies not in fleeting passion, but in enduring honesty, in weathering the storms together, in choosing to communicate even when it is difficult, especially when it is difficult. The scars remain a permanent reminder of the lessons learned. Too late. The cost of a moment of weakness, a lifetime of regret. I carry the weight of my past with me, a heavy burden, but also a catalyst for change. I hope to become a better man, a more honest man, a man worthy of the love I once so thoughtlessly discarded. The future is uncertain, but the lesson is clear. Integrity is everything. Trust is fragile, and love, once broken, is incredibly difficult to mend, if it can be mended at all, and even then, the memory of the fracture remains a shadow on the surface, a constant whisper of what was and what could never truly be. Again, the journey ahead is solitary, but perhaps in this solitude I can truly find myself, not the self that betrayed, but the self that seeks redemption, and a deeper understanding of what it means to be truly human, to err and to learn, and hopefully to grow beyond the wreckage of my own making.